here's the example that we put together, because lots of you were doing it at the same time. I've got a towel here because I'm about to make a mess. I'm going to put this towel down, and I've got a couple of tools handy. Salt flakes, table salt and rock salt, and they give quite different effects. So one tool to get it off, if you use your finger, it just like it's really rough on your skin. So you can use toothbrush to get it off. Not loving the salt flake effect. Oh, I've also got a big bristle brush. This is a really cheap brush. It's really stuck on there. So that will be a good tip for today. Use a tiny bit. It will be much easier to get off. And that's going to take ages to get off. And rock salt. So the big pro to using salt is instant and super gratifying texture. The large granules of salt give really big, beautiful marks. I'm going to zoom in so you can see what that's doing there. Especially, oh, I'm moving about a little too much there. There, I'll move the rock salt in. You can see they're really large. And what was absolutely fascinating about the rock salt is that the granules grabbed the blue and kind of grabbed the blue and gathered it to it and pushed the burnt sienna away. So it's done really awesome things, which I'm sure I'll find, yeah, it is therapeutic, totally. I'm sure I'll find a use for that. I'm going to hang on to this sheet because that was really fascinating what the rock salt did. I'm going to be using table salt. Just show you my painting for a second, the completed one. This was the painting that I did. I need to zoom out. This was the painting that I did as a practice version, and I videoed it and I released it as a video this morning. It's got a soundtrack to it, but it has no instructions. So this is the video to refer to for all instructions, heaps of detail here. And the video I released with the painting of this particular owl is takes about 9 minutes, and in reality it took me about an hour and a half to paint from end to end. But what I absolutely loved was what a really light little sprinkle of table salt. So that's what I'm going to be using today. I just loved that effect. Again, the blue is being gathered and the brown of the burnt sienna is being pushed away, which I just think is absolutely that's just divine what it is doing. I love that that has worked so beautifully. Okay, so that's it for the salt, and you can see one of the cons is that it can be hard to remove, and the pro is the fun. Okay, I'm going to dump that one and get rid of my bristle brush and old toothbrush. I love giving my old toothbrushes a second life. Get rid of this towel and just go back to my list here. I've made an enormous mess of this salt. Is absolutely everywhere. Just dumping that. So that was the salt, a little bit about the pros and the cons. Removing it is essential. I'm assuming that salt, being a corrosive element, is element the right word? A corrosive agent is going to, over time, eat into the paper. So I think getting rid of as much as you possibly can of the salt is a really good idea. So that was the salt. Then I'm going to talk about the brushes very briefly. This is a wisp brush. You can make your own wisp brush. I'm going to just hold it up a little closer so you can see. It's also called a rake brush, and it's just very specifically been cut. It's just a normal flat brush, and then it's been cut. You can get them in all sizes. I've also got a video on this, on the wisp brush. Not inexpensive. I was a bit surprised by how much I had to pay. Wish I could remember so I could tell you, but I'm not one for numbers and memory, I'm afraid. Anyway, I'm finding it really, really handy. If you want to make your own, I would totally go to YouTube and just use an old brush and attempt to cut it up. I just found it didn't work. When I tried it on multiple brushes, so in the end, I just bought one. That was the only thing I really wanted to mention about brushes. The other thing is that I will be using a lot of this little tiny liner brush, which is just like a rigger brush, but it's much shorter. And so these small brushes are what I'll be using today to do lots of feather work, which is kind of like fur, similar thing. That's the brushes. The gouache, well, we probably all know about gouache. I used a bit of gouache in the eyes. You'll see that in this video. And the disadvantage of gouache is that it kills all that beautiful transparency. So I'm really hoping. Oh, Karen says, if you don't remove all the salt and there is rain or humidity, the salt becomes wet again. Ooh, yeah. That's going to look bad, isn't it? Especially if it's framed. I once sent a painting in the sun inadvertently, and when I came back, it had released moisture. That was a little disastrous day, that one, because it was all framed, and then I had to take it all out, and obviously there was some moisture trapped in there. Very interesting. But anyway, you live and learn, don't you, with art? Oh, with everything. So gouache, in case you need some white. Also, you could re-establish some of those lovely white feathers around the eyes if you want with a bit of gouache. The disadvantage, I totally lost that beautiful luminosity that I had going in the eye. So I'm hoping with the one that we continue on with today, I have to get rid of all these little bits of salt, that I can maintain the use of transparent watercolor rather than using gouache, because at the moment these eyes have a lovely transparency to them. Gouache, I'm using this Araldo di Pialo gouache. It's from Riot. I'll put a link below. I have now an affiliate link for Riot products, so I'll put that there. And if you want to try this one, I find it's just as good as any other gouache and half the price, like quarter of the price. Okay, gouache, glazing with the eyes. So we'll be doing a little bit of that and glazing.